Start. Hold on. I might hear anything. That noise suppressor is actually pretty good. Hold on, guys. All right, just a warning. I'm gonna cover your ears real quick. I need to turn this up just a little bit because I can barely hear on my my monitor here. Oh, a little faster. Hold on. I need to adjust that. Let's see. Milliseconds is off a little bit. Got it into my computer. I got a mic directly into my computer, so that will affect. Let's try that again. Good. Hold on. That should be good. Oh, it's a little bit. It's a little bit off. It's a little bit off. So let me adjust it. Otherwise, it's gonna look like an old one of those little guys in the movies. We don't want that. So about 75 milliseconds off. Okay. Yeah. That right on? Yeah, I think we go with that. I'm happy with that. So, I know I'm a little early. No, actually, right on time. I said 10 minutes from 9:15. It's now 9:25. Hawaii Standard Time. How's the audio? One of my friends let me borrow his mic, so I'm using that. Actually, let me take this monitor off. Sounds good in my ear, but it was really low last time, and I was just like, wow, why is it so low? Let me turn this up just a tad. So we should be, yeah, it should be like right here. I have noise suppression on, so it should be good to go. Okay. All right, guys, welcome to the Photog chat. Photog chat. M as in Michaud. Michaud as in let me show you how to say my name. That's how you say it, Michaud. So today I want to talk about gear, or rather gear misconceptions. I'll give you a few. I'm not gonna do like a number 1, 2, 3 thing, but just something like things that kind of come to my head, and we'll go from there. So basically, oh yeah, before I start, please like, subscribe, video that will help the algorithm, and you can see more of this content in the future, and click the notification bell if you want to see this pop up on your phone or whatever. And that would be great, because more content like this is great for the community as a whole. So it's great for everybody. Um, yes, so we're gonna talk about misconceptions of gear. The reason why I make this video, and I'll just give you the reason now, is because so Jared Polin, he actually did a video with Photog. I mentioned it in my last video actually, but this is a different reason why I'm bringing it up now. And just as a little bit of background, I actually made this podcast before it came out like garbage. The whole thing was, I didn't realize my Bluetooth ear pods were in my pocket, and they were activated the whole time. So when I was talking, it was like they were picking up just pocket noises. And I thought the whole time, I didn't realize until after the fact that my Bluetooth was on, and I was like, well, that's weird. But anyways, so that turned out, yeah, nothing. I got nothing out of it. All I heard was pocket noises. Literally pocket noises. So I had to scrap it. Anyways, we're back, and I feel better, because that would have ended up being probably about a good hour plus. Hope this doesn't last as long, but we're looking at about 30 minutes tops. And yeah, hopefully not, but we'll see. Whatever happens, whatever comes out, comes out. I'm kind of like one of those podcasters. I do have some notes to stay on track, but I like to elaborate on my ideas and my personal experiences and any given respective situation. As far as like in this case, it's gear, it's cameras, it's whatever. Yeah. So let's get started. Yeah, you're more than welcome to join me. Join me with a cup of coffee, tea, or drink of your choice. I know I will. So, since we're live, we can kind of just go. Like right now, I'm thinking about thinking about breaking my camera out right now. I don't know if you guys have seen it. Break down my D750 here, and this is a camera that I've shot with before. It's not the camera I'm shooting with right now, but so let's wait for the focus to catch up. Come on. It's like, where yet? There it is. Okay. It's like, where you at, buddy? Okay. All right. So, yeah, that depth of field is very thin. So this is my camera. I don't know if you guys it's not gonna do it to my faces right there. Face priority. It's probably what it. So anyways, it's this is my D750. And for much of my beginnings as a portrait photographer, that was my camera. And it's still a great camera to this day. If I break it out right now, I mean, granted, it would be kind of like relearning some of the things, but for the most part, I know the ins and outs of this camera, much like the camera I'm filming this on, which is my Z6. So it's a great camera. I actually talked to a friend today about it, and he has a D7500. 7500 is it's a crop sensor. It's a really good camera. It was one of the last crop sensors that crop sensor DSLRs that Nikon actually released, and that's a good camera in itself. the camera I had before this one was a D5300, which is a lower, it's a lower tier. Still crop sensor, but less features and much older than the 75, obviously 7500. Anyway, I bring this up because the video that I saw, Jared Polin, and even recently the video he was talking about, he was comparing the R6, Canon R6, the Sony, I think it's the A7R. No, not the R. A7 IV. See, the model numbers just threw me off. But anyways, whatever that camera is, the newest Sony camera that came out, he was comparing that with the Z6 II. Or it might have been the Z7 II. Anyways, doesn't matter. And for the most part, the Z7 or Z6 is, well, Z6 in particular, it's been out, it came out last year, so it's older tech. And I say that with hesitancy because a lot of people think that, well, it's an older camera, it must mean it's less. No, in fact, I'm actually using this, the film. I'm using this video. I'm using the Z6 video, and this camera is it's even older than that. Like 2019 was it? Yeah, the camera came out in 2019, late 2019, and anyways, to kind of elaborate on what he was saying on the video, he was basically saying that, well, these cameras, you know, the R5 and the Z, the R5 and the A7 IV, A7 IV, is that right? Yeah, A7 IV. Model numbers are crazy. I don't know. A7 number 4, call it Mark 4, whatever you want to call it. These are better cameras. And I'm like, well, okay, maybe valid. And he keeps bringing up this point that, you know, he's probably one of the few people that's had the opportunity to utilize all these cameras, all of them, at various times. And his name comes up a lot. When it comes to, in a sense, shitting on Nikon or whatever, that the name comes up a lot. And before I talk about it, I'm going to defend him just a little bit, and then I'm going to elaborate on what I think is the misconception or his issues. So, first off, he is one of those type of people that tells it how it is. I respect that. Second, I just lost my point, but second, he's very knowledgeable. He's very knowledgeable about all kinds of types of gear, like, you know, photography equipment, mostly cameras, lighting equipment. Not so much. I've never actually seen him do a lighting review. So, no, mostly lenses and cameras. So he does that. So he's very knowledgeable about that sort of thing. And I use him quite a bit in far as regards to making different choices when I wanted to go buy something. Like this, you know, this lens, for example, might have been one of the things to use. I don't know. However, and this is where I'm gonna be like, okay, well, the thing that I didn't really trust him with the reviews of Nikon. Now I saw the reviews and I saw like the very first videos that came out. Yes, the eye autofocus tracking was just, it was like, it needed a bump. It needs some work. When the first like rendition of the firmware that came out was rough. And the second one instantly like boosted it to where it needed to be, and then finally we got a third. And but by the time I got this camera, it was already in the second. It was like the second version of the firmware, so I didn't really have any issues per se. Not only that, I was still learning the ins and outs of eye and face autofocus. Meaning that when I got this camera, the first time I got this camera, I treated it like this camera. Now, granted, in live view, you can kind of simulate the mirrorless, and it does track faces. And I didn't realize that until I opened up. I was like, live view, you can actually do that. And it's just crazy, like when you look at, when you learn the ins and outs of your camera, which I'm gonna make a point of this in a second about learning the ins and outs of your camera, because I think that's more important than being like, well, having the best technology in the world. Because let's face it, the best is also like the most expensive. So case in point, when Jared Poland went and was talking with Mahogany Frames and Photo about the Z9, because he actually apparently he had the Z9 for like a week or something, and he got to play with it, and it's a pre-production model, so there wasn't much to go on. But Nikon, they reached out to him and it's like, hey, play with this camera, you know, do what you want, say what you want, because he's not an ambassador of Nikon, so it's like whatever. And I respect the fact that he tells it how it is, but I also, the thing that kind of gets me, and a lot of people and naysayers alike, they will say this. They say like, well, it's Nikon's this last generation, whatever. It's this, it's that. But time and time again, and I'm not a Nikon. First, I'm not a Nikon fanboy. I've given my story multiple times in past videos, and more welcome to watch it. And the reason why I chose Nikon over the competition. Okay. So with that said, yes, I'll be honest with you. I do have, I have had issues and seen issues. And again, it's all about, learning about your see, it's trying to focus on my family. Is it too close? So I have those issues, but not like it doesn't affect my work. Okay, it's affecting me right now, and I need to learn how to deal with that. Because right now, it's on auto mode. It's like total auto, video auto. You have the webcam utility up, so I'm not really sure. I've seen like Matt Granger like fix it. Like he's had like issues where he puts it like right up to the camera, and it doesn't register. And well, it is a black camera, so it has. Yes, like right now. Like, find my face again. Oh man, where we at? Come on now. This is not a native lens, by the way. Oh man, I want to do that. Oh, now I wants to focus on my chair. There it is. Look at that. It has a mind of its own, but for what I do, it works, and it works very well. Portraits, like once I got out of the single point focus mode on basically going from a D750 to this camera, it was a godsend. And it was definitely operator error on my part. I didn't get it to work right. In fact, it wasn't on IAF at all. It was just face. It's like, why don't the eyes come up at all? And then I figured out why, because it was off the whole time. And then there's other things, other circumstances such as lenses. Some lenses don't work 100% with this camera. Um, Again, firmware has fixed a lot of that, but a lot of the third-party manufacturers, they don't update their firmware, or at least um, I haven't seen any recent ones. Like Tamron and Sigma now have the what do you call them? The docks for those lenses, but I haven't seen any recent firmware to suggest that they're gonna update them anytime soon to work with this camera. In fact, Tamron, there's lenses like there's lenses that came out years ago that they don't support like that anymore. It's like what you have is what you have. So make what with you have, basically. Make with what you have. That's the name of the game. What is that? Playbacks. We're just in it. So, where's my train of thought here? Because I just explained to you kind of like my experience with the Z6, and it's a great camera. It is. It exceeds my expectations as far as what I need because I'm honestly not shooting wildlife. I'm not shooting sports per se. And I would say that that is one of the things that are a main concern of most people that use the system. And but again, I have seen people actually use it quite well, or they're very good at using the camera, the ins and outs of the camera, so much that it's not so much the eye autofocus that they depend on. Because you have to realize that autofocus is automatic technology. It's automated. That means that you're depending on the camera to focus on something, whatever. And it's great. It's great for most situations that I use it for in regards to portraits, faces, I shoot models. I shoot some landscaping, but I don't use that for landscaping, obviously. But just watching various videos and learning this camera a lot more, same as I did with the last camera. I watched hundreds of videos, just learning how to the ins and outs of this camera, the in manual, because I mean I started out in full auto, graduated to P mode, eventually to aperture mode. I never really used shutter priority a lot. I never really needed it because that's not how I shot. That's for sports. So there's a lot of variables there in regards to gear. The thing I was Another photographer brought this up on YouTube is the fact that um in his recent video, Jerry Pullen was again comparing these three cameras, and he said basically it's like, if you're starting out, you're new, choose the Sony or choose the Canon. Canon has the better, actually Canon has more focus points on that camera, on the camera that came out. So he said that was better than having, and we actually said this. He literally said this, that the Nikon has better images. It has better color science. If you're new to this channel, I would think that, man, let's just break it down for a second. So the camera, the Z6 II, is $500 less than the competition, right? It came out last year. I'm pretty sure the R5 and R6 came out early this year. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. If it has better imagery, despite the fact that it may not have the best eye autofocus or face autofocus, but it's decent, it's good, it works. But he still said, even though it was $500 less than the competition, he said it was better to go with the competition. Now, again, I don't shoot like Jared Poland. And as far as I know, Jared Poland shoots a lot of live events. And if for some reason he's not getting the camera to work at live events, then that's his experience. I mean, I can't argue with that. I can't say like, well, he's wrong. It's like, well, everyone has like their own experience with cameras. Everybody, I don't know how long he takes. I mean, I'm pretty sure he's very thorough. And I'll be honest, I haven't shot any Canon. I haven't shot any Stuntlings. I have shot Fuji a little bit, very little bit, very little, very very little bit. In fact, I would have went Fuji if Nikon did come out with a mirrorless, which I knew they would eventually come out with a mirrorless. What took time? Took time. Now the Z9's on the horizon, and this is the point I want to make, and I'm going to conclude here shortly, is why I made this video. Because I feel like the thing that really disappointed me about that video was the fact that he basically he kind of like nonchalantly, kind of like, just blase, shit on Nikon there for a second. And he gets a lot of shit for it, as he should. As he should. I'm not saying that, hey, I'm not saying it has the best autofocus system. That's not my point. Point is, it's a great camera. Point is, it does what I need it to do in most situations. 99% of the time, it works. It does what I need it to do. It's not a Hasselblad. If you want to pay, $5,000 for a camera that will work and that does not have eye autofocus, you pay for a Hasselblad. But people are not complaining about, oh, the eye autofocus doesn't work on this thing. As far as I know, Hasselblad doesn't have that sort of thing. Hasselblad is the professional camera, like for real, serious, for real, for real. I'm not gonna even talk about the definition of professional photographer. The point being is that to be a better photographer is to know how to work your equipment right. Whether it's the camera I'm shooting on. I'm gonna figure this out. I'm gonna figure out how to do the whole thing so it can focus. See, now it does it, but that has to do with the freaking knowing the ins and outs and how the camera works, so I can better. See, I don't know. Come on, where you at, buddy? There you go. To know how it works and why it does what it does. Like when it doesn't focus on my camera, I know I have an idea why, because it's all black. It has to do with contrast, right? So yeah, I'm not gonna explain that right now. But knowing the ins and outs of the camera is something that you're just gonna have to do. I don't care what system you use. I don't care if you use Pentax. The point is, all those cameras, the ones that Jerry Poland compared, they're all great cameras. And each and every one of them has pros and cons of their own. You can't just sit here and say, well, the Nikon, the Z6 has the least efficient or effective autofocusing system as far as the face and the eye, yes. But if you know how to work your camera, you can work around. If there's an issue, you can work around that and be like, hey, I'm going to single point, or I'm going to go to subject tracking, or there's all kinds of ways you can do this. It's a great camera. Like I said, I'm not gonna be like, I'm not a fanboy. I don't get paid by Nikon to say it's a great camera. Just look at my work. My work speaks for itself, and I'm not the greatest photographer in the world, not by a long shot. But like I said, the work that I do, the work that I put out it speaks volumes as far as where the camera, it's improved on my work, not to say that it's taken over. Like I use eye and face autofocus almost exclusively now when I do portraits. Because yeah, it does take time. You if you go to single point, and sometimes you need to. Sometimes you need to go to subject tracking, because if you're in a situation and the camera's confused of what it sees, because cameras are more computers now than anything else. If the camera sees something and doesn't know what it is, it's like, I don't know what that is. Is that a wall? It's like, it doesn't know. Now they're getting so much better. It's like, oh, I know that's a car. I know that's a bird. I know that's somebody's eye. Oh, and I know somebody's eye and there's a face, but there's a mask. So I should track the eye, because even though he's wearing a face, new cameras can do that now. A lot of cameras I couldn't see. They can only see they can see the eye if they see the rest of the face, but not if you're wearing a mask or something, or sunglasses. The Z9 can track in sunglasses. It's crazy. The technology is great, but, and this is actually the first thing I said in the video. I was like, The Z9 looks, and it looks amazing. From what I've seen and what I've heard, it's an amazing camera. It's an amazing piece of equipment, piece of gear. But I will not buy it. And I won't buy it not because I don't think I would like the camera. I think I would love the camera. I don't need something like that. That camera was made for a particular purpose. And I don't use this camera for this purpose. Matt Granger said it. He said like, yo, 20 frames per second is a lot, and 120 is like, it's insane. It can do a lot. It's that powerful, but do you really need that power? You gotta ask yourself, like, the question's gonna come up. Look, if you're on the fence and you haven't gotten a camera yet, this is probably a bigger deal for you than say, well, if you already have a particular brand of camera, then this will affect you less, because I would highly suggest that you stick with your current system, because unless your current system is going down the toilet, then that's different. But if you stick with, the top five, you're good. I mean, I know YouTubers that shoot Lumix, which is a Panasonic camera, and it's not a bad camera. I would say, I mean, from what I hear, there's different reviews. You can look it up yourself, but it's still like one of the top five cameras you can get, right? Point is, it's like, again, it comes back to how good a photographer you are. Because I don't know about you, but when I first, my background is video, my background is cinematography. And the one thing they taught us, and this was like umpteen years ago, is like there is no automatic. Everything is manual. I want you to think about that. What that means. I'm not saying that you have to do everything harder. Case in point, when I go and do photography, I shoot manual mode. I used to go aperture back when I was shooting the 750, and then I switched to manual mode exclusively, and it was a game changer. I could control everything, my ISO, my shutter speed, my aperture, and especially useful when you start learning lighting, strobes in particular. Because when you learn strobes, so two thoughts is you can go automatic. Automatic will give you decent results. Most of the time, it will give you good results. But if you want more control, you're gonna have to learn your camera. You're gonna have to learn your gear. And it's not necessarily about, oh, the latest and greatest thing that comes out. I know people that have the D850s and the D750s, but they still use it, and they're still great cameras. To this day, they're like the cream of the crop of the cameras that came out as far as DSLRs. I'm not I'm not all about the freaking like the cell phone. I call it a cell phone analogy, because like when every year a new cell phone comes out, every year there's some new piece of equipment or gear or camera that comes out, and it's great, it's awesome, but costs money, and not everybody has money to spend on new stuff. And why buy new stuff when the stuff that you have right now is pretty good? Unless you have like a 25-year-old camera. I mean, if you got a camera in the last 10 years, I'd say you're still good. But again, that's personal preference. Um, just learn your gear. I mean, just go out and shoot. Just go out and capture something awesome, and instead of like, oh, this camera does this, it's got this specs and all those numbers, and you know that's great. It's awesome. I'll be honest with you. Face and auto eye detect is one of the biggest game changers as far as cameras. But yet it's been in phones for years. I mean, if you want to really make a comparison, the point to say that the camera industry is behind the phone industry as far as this kind of technology because they're better at it. I'm just amazed that there hasn't been some kind of merge or collab between the two companies, whether that being Samsung or Apple, in regards to face and auto eye detect because they've been doing it for years. It's just crazy to think that that's the talking point. That's the main point. It's like, what about everything else? What about the color science? What about the imaging? Uh, not to talk shit about Sony at all, but the one complaint that I get, and it's not all the Sony cameras, but a particular one, is that it's too sharp. And look, take it for what you will, but if things were too sharp and like you can take your photos in Photoshop or whatever, I use Capture One and Photoshop. You take your photos and Capture One, you can make it really. What happens to an image if it's too sharp? Yeah, you can save it. You can, take the clarity off. Like, I guess you can call it clarity. So clarity on the photos, um, rendered by this particular camera is just really, really sharp. I believe it's more of a computation thing versus a lens thing, because lenses they can only be so sharp, right? It's glass, it's it's whatever that happens inside the glass that will either make it sharp or not sharp, motors and all that stuff. But anyways, the point is that utilize the tools that you have. Not every tool is going to be great for you, and you just have to figure out what is. I'm not going to spend all this money. I'm not going to spend all this money to switch systems on somebody's whim that says, well, this camera does this camera does that. I may consider their opinion and feedback, yes, and I have in the past many times, and it has led me up to this camera. I picked this camera over the C7 because I knew it was slightly better at video and low light situations. But that's something you have to research. It's not always, this camera has this low, better, or least amount of autofocus based on what? There's a lot of people that say it's great. There's a lot of people that say that it works for what they do. So you have to figure that out for yourself. I don't care what brand you shoot with. I'm not about brands, really, to be honest. I really can give two shits. But I have to wonder though sometimes that the people like Jared Polin get paid by Sony or something to say something. He gets a lot of gear. You gotta wonder, does he pay for it out of pocket? Not like I said, nothing against Jared Polin. I'm not slamming the guy. He's a very knowledgeable guy. I just question it. I just make the question. I have the question. That's all. I have the question because I've seen not just Jared Polin. He's a prime example, yes, but I've seen other photographers on the interwebs of YouTube. All of a sudden it's like I'm switching to this or I'm switching to that. It's like, why make the switch if you have these the best if you're getting the best kind of work, your work is great with the camera you're shooting with, why all of a sudden switch to a new system? Because I would have to think you'd have to learn a new system. One, two, you have to pay for it. You have to buy all these lenses and everything to switch the system. And if you use strobes, you gotta buy the strobes if they're not universal. So it seems like there's something else going on. Fact, I know for a fact that Sony reaches out to especially the younger demographic of photographers and YouTubers alike. They reach out. They're really good at marketing. I know Nikon has to work on that. So I think I'm gonna call it here. I don't want to beat the dead horse, but I just wanted to make the point that I see it and I see it happening. And like I gotta make my opinion. Like I gotta put it out there. It may not be the most popular opinion. I don't care. You know. The point is, I have a job. I feel like I have an obligation to be honest and at least about this, because it's like so many people can talk shit about something, and then it's like, well, that's one perspective. Well, what about the other perspective? What about the facts? What about the benefits? And you have to realize you have to make your own. It's like the Oracle said in the Matrix. You have to make up your own damn mind. If you have the opportunity to try all cameras, go for it. If you have the time and opportunity to try the newest Sony, the newest Canon, and the newest Nikon, go for it. I'm not saying, hey, so whatever. That's your choice, not mine. I've made my choice. I'm happy with my choice. That's all I'm saying. So, anyways, I think I've hit all the points that I'm going to hit on here. Frames also made a good point about the gear coming out. It's like, well, I don't want to beat the dead horse, but if you have good gear already, what's the point of buying new gear to replace it? Unless it's, it's something that's you might help you. If it helps, it helps. I mean, they're tools, right? But again, the tool is only as great as a photographer and a visual artist. So I'm done. I'm not gonna go too long on this, but I know that I'm already at 40 something minutes already. So let's end this and say, gear is great. And I didn't really touch on gas too much. That wasn't really my point of this video, but gas can be an issue too. If you don't know what gas is, look it up. Look it up. I might do one actually. I might do a new another video talking about gas, but gas basically it's having the urge to basically buy all this gear just to have it, and not just appreciating what you have, but instead it's like, no, I need more. I need more. I need more. I want that. I want that the new 8400 Pro, which is nice, by the way. And it's on sale, Black Friday sale. So yeah, go out and capture something awesome. Don't focus on the tech so much, but more importantly, learn your equipment, because that's what's gonna really determine, between a great photographer and a novice photographer. That's pretty much the determining factor. So if you know your gear, if you know the ins and outs and how to get whatever you can in any given situation, then that makes you a better photographer in the long run. It's not just the eye autofocus and the face autofocus, which is great. Not shitting on that at all. It's great technology. It's a game changer. It makes my life a lot easier. It is frustrating when there's quirks, but for the most part, like I said, 99% of the time it works, and it works very well. So I'm done. Please like and follow. I have to keep reminding myself to remind you, ladies and gentlemen, that to see more videos like this, it will tell the YouTube algorithm that, hey, I'm here and you like my videos. If you like them, if you don't, it's fine too. But if you're here and you like what you hear, you like what you see, well, not so much me, but sometimes I show my gear. So if you like what you see, please like and subscribe, and please share with other people that you think might get something out of this. I appreciate you guys. I'm gonna sign off here, and until next time. And the question is, before I leave, is I don't know, I just came up with it. I'm like, I didn't have a question at the beginning of this whole thing, and now I'm like, all of a sudden I gotta come up with a question, because I'm like, I gotta end with a question. So we'll do something related to the video itself. What is, first of all, what do you like to shoot with? And then what are you looking forward to getting and why? That could be a camera, that could be a lens, anything. So that's the question. So I will leave you with that. And until next time, we show out. Cheers, everybody.